So I decided to review on my channel the Raspberry Pi 500. And if you've never heard about this company, they make like a very ultra small, and I would even call it the powerful PCs. It's not like a huge high gaming powerful PCs, it's more like powerful for daily work or programming or maybe doing some project, but it's like a tiny PC. And I decided to test out their new model, which is Raspberry Pi 500, which is the whole PC in a keyboard. Let's check it out. Okay, so inside the box we do have the actual computer and the keyboard, except that there is a power supply, the mouse, and we have the micro HDMI to HDMI to connect the monitor, and the actual Raspberry Pi beginner's guide, you know? So this is an interesting one. In general, one more thing which I missed is obviously the SD card with the actual system. Okay, so when it comes to this Raspberry Pi, like there are two versions of this computer. So there is a normal version, which is the keyboard, the computer only, the Raspberry Pi only, or you can buy the set, which I did. So the keyboard and the computer only cost $90, and the whole set with a power supply and a mouse and additional kind of cable cost $120. So we'll see if it's actually worth it, and we're gonna test out that Raspberry Pi 500. So let's obviously open it. Ooh, this is decent. Look at that. Okay, so this is an interesting thing, right? So this is a full computer. So a computer in a keyboard, you know? Like everything there. So you can see, you know, all the connectors all in one kind of place. So this is interesting. And as you can see, everything is already kind of here. So when it comes to the spec of this computer, so this is featuring a quad-core 64-bit processor. It has obviously the wireless network and the Wi-Fi. It has a dual display, so you have two options for the HDMI right here. You can connect the 4K resolution monitor. That's actually very interesting. And obviously we have some power as well, which is right here. So that USB-C, it's power. And then you have other connectors like USB 3.0, USB 2.0 I can see, the slot for the SD card, and the Ethernet to connecting the LAN cable if you want, but also has the Wi-Fi. So that is interesting because in general, like this is a very small computer. Like this is something which is very small. It's pretty light, so it kind of weighs slightly more than my normal keyboard. And it's running their own operating system, which we're gonna test out. So let's connect all of that. Alright, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna connect the actual computer and the station right now. So we're using the power supply, which is provided by them, and connects the 27-watt power supply, and we're gonna connect it to that USB-C, which is right here. While connecting all the Raspberry Pi, do you want to see my greatly tidy organized cables? No? Well, that's great because I don't have it. My cables are a mess. One moment. Okay, connecting the power. And the last bit, we're connecting the actual mouse, you know? So yeah, this is from Raspberry Pi, so I bought it like a whole set for it. So right now I have connected everything. As you can see, the mouse, the actual power, and the monitor. So those three things are actually connected at this moment. And right now I can see that it's already working. So it's bringing me to the Raspberry Pi desktop. So this is their own operating system. which, you know, I've actually never worked with. So, you know, this is something which I was like, wow, okay, this is different. And I'm gonna, you know, create a username and quickly set it up. So before I dig into a little bit of the operating system, which is their own operating system, Raspberry Pi 500 is running their own OS. So it's actually running the Raspberry Pi OS, which is built on Linux. So that means it's a really lightweight operating system, which is great for like a daily work, maybe some coding, and in general, like it's not like a heavy gaming set. But I think for like a daily usage, it is a pretty cool device. Looking at that, you can buy it for as little as $90, the kind of a basic set, which I think it's pretty interesting because who is it for? Like it's for everyone who wants to at first try it on Linux, maybe learn a bit more about Linux, maybe learn a bit more about programming, or learn how to kind of work with slightly different operating system, have some fun, tinker a bit. I think this is kind of the direction of the Raspberry Pi 500 and who is it for, because I would call it a budget mini PC. So it's definitely not for everyone who is looking into, you know, so heavy gaming. And I don't think, you know, you can actually do some heavy duty work on it. But we're gonna test out what you can actually do on the Raspberry Pi. So when you're starting, it actually asks you what browser you would like to choose, either Chromium or Firefox, and they are pre-installed on it. So we're gonna go with the Chromium, and you can immediately tick here to uninstall the unused one. So like it's immediately like, okay, you're choosing Chromium, great, we're gonna uninstall Firefox. I'm gonna keep both. So as you can see, the system just connected, and it is a Raspberry Pi OS, so it's definitely different than, you know, what you're seeing on, for example, if you're using Windows or when you're using the Mac. Like it's similar with some of the things, but like it's definitely kind of needs to be, you know, work with a bit to kind of get used to it. So yeah, I can see, you know, internet browsing, like it works, you know, it works pretty decent. Like, yeah, that actually works pretty nice. So I can see it is cool. All right, so we can go to open applications, and here you immediately see kind of what is the direction of this computer. So like you can actually see that, you know, the first kind of thing, it's all about programming. So like Genie Programmers Editor, Mathematica, Scratch Free, Wolfram, etc. You have the Office, which is built in LibreOffice, which is like an open office, free version of Microsoft Office in a way. Then you have option to go for the internet and browse things, the sound and the video to watch things, which is VLC media player built in, the image viewer, and even some basic games, you know. So you can, for example, open some basic, like, you know, soccer and actually play something on it. But as I mentioned, this is not the game, this is not the computer that's actually, you know, heavy on the gaming, right? So, you know, I can see that this is very kind of basic, but obviously you can learn a bit more about it, and I think that's a pretty cool thing, because the actual Raspberry Pi, it's a computer all in a keyboard. So with that, you know, there are so many kind of advantages that people can actually check it out, see how it works. And you know, I think what I would do, and this is probably the first thing if you are thinking about the Raspberry Pi, is actually go to Grok or go to the ChatGPT and actually use AI to help you to figure it out. What else do you think you could do? And I'll be honest with you, with the computer worth $90, it's a definitely cool thing. So one thing which I definitely found, which is not as great, I think, with the Raspberry Pi, is that it actually doesn't have the M2 slot. So you cannot really connect the M2 drive. It only works on the SD, micro SD card for storage, which I think it kind of reduces its slight capability, but it's pretty great. But I think at some point when they're gonna add the you know, M2 SSD slot, then this will, I think, make a huge change on the Raspberry Pi. So you can use the basics, as I mentioned, for editing the files, or even using a Google Drive, or maybe working with AI, and even some basic editing with Kden Live, for example. But the challenge is that because it is a Linux-based system, you'll have to kind of learn. And that probably for many of you might be a challenge, and a positive challenge, to learn a little bit of, kind of a command prompt, like to actually working with the Linux operating system. And I think that's a great learning curve, especially that you have a lot of things kind of built into the into that operating system of Raspberry Pi. So I think it's pretty cool. What do you think? Do you like it? Do you think that's something that is interesting? I definitely do. I definitely think that for $90 it is a pretty bargain, and especially if someone wants to start some basics, even play some Minecraft, because for example Raspberry Pi 500 supports Minecraft, then yeah, this is something which is pretty cool. Do you like my videos? If yes, you know what to do. Just hit that like and subscribe so you're up to date with all the videos, and see you in the next one. Take care!
MadTechTalk, tech so fly, breaking down gear, let's amplify. Sub like, don't miss a thing. Tech reviews with a little bling. We out for now, but stay tuned. More fire tech is dropping soon.